Hello, hello, everyone. I'm so happy you're joining me today. In my studio, I'm going to be painting sweet peas. And here's my practice sheet. I have this Imperial Purple from Daniel Smith that I'm using that creates the most beautiful colors. It is one tube of paint, and now I've got some pink there on one side of the paper, but this one here is one color. This is purple with the pinks, and the blues that come out of it are just amazing. So I'm going to do two sets of sweet peas. We'll start on the left here with the Imperial Purple, and then we'll do on the right-hand side another Daniel Smith tube, quinacridone, easy for me to say, quinacridone Rose. But I'm going to start with the Imperial Purple because I think if you could have one tube of paint in your watercolor arsenal, this would be it. It, to me, is just such a beautiful blending of pink, purple, and blue. And I think I'm going to try maybe play around with some fuchsias. There are so many colors in nature that have pinks, purples, and blues in them that it just seems like a no-brainer to get a tube of that if you like to paint florals. And so with my sweet peas, when I've been painting them and practicing, and I've been playing with this for weeks. I love sweet peas, one of my favorite flowers in the garden. They smell amazing. I had a friend in San Jose who years ago grew a whole, almost her whole backyard was full of sweet peas. So just gorgeous. I've not had a lot of luck growing them myself, but I try every year. But with painting these sweet peas, I really feel like the crazier the better when you are putting down this paint. So like I said, I've been playing with it. I'll put a drop of paint down, have kind of a watery brush with a little bit of pigment on it, and then rinse my brush and go back in and just, there a lot of the sweet pea petals look like butterflies, or they look like seashells, but they're very ruffly on the end, and there's not a lot of rhyme or reason. They're not a very uniform flower like daisies. So I feel like you have a lot of leeway when painting these. And I think the secret is to kind of make sure that it comes down, as with every flower, there's a middle of the flower. So there's the dot that I start, however many petals, 2 or 3 petals. Some of them have one, or look like they have one from the side, but they have 2 or 3 beautiful, crazy petals on each of the flowers. And I try to pick one point that's the starting point for each of these petals. And for me, if my paper's not flipped down, I'm flipping it around because it's easier for me to pull these petals out from center to left, not left to right, right to left, being left-handed. So if you haven't taped your paper down, you can just flip your whole pad of paper over and get in there. And that, for me, is an easier way of doing it. And then I'll go back through and add a little bit more color. Now these I try to start light, not super light, not completely see-through. And then I go back in and put more of the purple in the center, and it just runs all over the place. You're going to get a decent amount of color even if you do them super light. Like these lighter ones show the pink and the blue, and the longer it dries, the more the colors come out. So it's not necessarily an instant, the colors aren't right away pink, blue, and purple, but they're pretty fast. They granulate pretty quickly. So I think I'm going to do a couple more flowers here. I try to have an odd amount. So I'm going to do 2 more flowers and then a couple of buds. One thing that I love about sweet peas is the thin, um, almost cork. They're spiral, the thin spiral stems that they have that kind of go off in every direction. I just love the wild look of sweet peas. And so if you put your little dot in the middle and bring your 2 or 3 petals off of that one dot, it's going to look like a sweet pea. I mean, really, some of these petals, the worse, the worse they they were, like, technically, the better they ended up looking like sweet peas. I don't even know how to describe it. It's an awful lot of fun. So get out that's a number 5 Heritage Princeton brush that I have. I did find for doing these, the smaller brushes worked a little bit better for me. The bigger brush felt a little unwieldy, and I couldn't get the ruffles that I like, or enough of the ruffles on this small piece of paper. This is like a 9 by 12. And so I guess if you're working on a big full sheet, you could use a bigger brush. But this kind of allowed me to get those little wiggles in there that are so characteristic of a sweet pea. And so I'm going to plunk one right in the middle here. I have some light pencil guidelines there. You can do those or you don't have to. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. And I don't always follow them after I put them down, but depends on, what you're going for with your piece. So now I'm going to use a little bit of, I've got Daniel Smith. There are 3 different ones. One's a serpentine green, sap green on the very left, serpentine, I think, in the middle, and apatite green apatite on the right, which is also a granulating color, but it's really, really dark. So I didn't use it so much with the sweet peas. You could. It's up to you. It's all personal preference. But I kind of just throw all 3 of them in there. And that brush is a Casio Da Vinci brush that I bought for a couple of years ago. I signed up for Watercolor Live online, and I bought it at one of the teachers had put it down on his or her list, and I bought it, and I didn't end up either taking the class with that instructor. Nobody ever used that brush in the whole 3 days that I did Watercolor Live. So I had this weird brush. It looks like it's a big bushy brush, and then they cut out a little detailed part at the tip. It's very strange. But it's really good for some of this more detail work. You can get really thin lines with it. I'm going to have to look up why they actually make a brush like that. It's the weirdest brush Dagger brushes look weird, but these look really weird. So if anybody knows out there in YouTube land why the brush is like that, I'd love to hear it. Pop it in the comments. Oh, also, while I'm chatting and painting, I have started a Facebook group page where I would love to have you share if you do any of these paintings from my tutorials or demonstrations. Some are tutorials, some are demonstrations. I'd love to see them. And YouTube, as much as I love it, you can't share your pictures in the comments. I sure wish they would change that. That would be phenomenal if people could post their pictures in the comments, because I would love to see what you're doing. I get feedback from people that say, oh, I've done this 2 or 3 times and I really want to see it. So I started a Facebook group, and it is creating with Christine Marks. Yeah, I tried to keep it simple. I didn't want to get too crazy with it because then I couldn't remember it like I just did. Creating with Christine Marks, and if you go to that and join, it is private. It's supposed to be private, but I do have people there that are adding other people. I'm not quite sure how that works, and I'm happy about it because they all seem to be artists, and I will do my best to keep it all artists. And I'd like to keep it private because people can be brutal on Facebook with people's art. And I want it to be somewhere where we share what we're doing and in a positive manner. Because for me, art is so relaxing and such a peaceful, wonderful part of my life, unless I'm doing a commission, which I don't do anymore because they're dreadful. But this type of art I really love. And I love building a community of people here on YouTube that enjoy the same thing. So I want to keep it a non toxic, fun place. And um, I may do weekly challenges. I'm just putting it all together now. So if you'd like to pop over there and join, I'd love to see you over there. Now we're going to work on the pink quinacridone. I have such a hard time with that word. Quinn Rose, Daniel Smith on the right. And in looking through seeing Sweet Peas over the years, they've got the beautiful fuchsia pink, either very pale pink, blushy colors, the magenta pink, or those purple and blue. And so I wanted to do just some of the plain pink that are so pretty next to the imperial purple. Although the imperial purple is my favorite with the blues and the pinks. When I get excited about an art product, I kind of go all in for a while, um, doing, playing around and doing all kinds of fun things, trying it out, seeing what different things I can paint with that. I guess, I don't know if it was Da Vinci that went through his blue, painted everything, his blue period, blue, blue, blue. I'm so terrible. My brain doesn't remember things well, so I'm very bad at quoting which artist did what. Um, Thank goodness for the internets where you can look things up when your brain doesn't cooperate. But now I really didn't like that. It kind of blended into one big blob. But I'm going to go back in and do it again. One, because this is just fun demonstration of Sweet Peas. And I actually kind of like going through this, doing it again, and putting a space in the middle that wasn't there. But it also has a little tiny bit of the part I wiped off showing through the back that kind of looks like I intentionally did it, which is always good. Watercolor, I think, is one of the toughest mediums to paint with. I did oils for years, and I'm going to get back into it. Um, so watercolor is my newest medium, and it's hard. There are some phenomenal oil painters who have said, and I mean phenomenal, like their paintings sell in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I've heard a few of them say, I have the hardest time with watercolor. So that made me feel better. But one part of watercolor that I love, I mean, it's the uncontrollability of it. That's also sometimes the biggest delight painting with watercolor, because the unpredictability, you can create such beautiful things unintentionally sometimes with watercolor. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of a point at the end there. That was a little bit dark, but maybe I'll pull some of it out at the end, the pink. I just want to lay the shapes in there. I'm definitely not going to add any more color into that one. And if it's not wild enough, like you don't want it looking like a Cosmo petal, just get in there with your brush and start ruffling your paint. I think I might. I'm just starting my garden. I've got a flat of English lavender and I have a flat of zinnia. I love zinnia. We have a little farm stand out front where my daughter Shannon sells cut flowers. We do sunflowers and a lot of the easy flowers. But I think I'm going to try sweet peas again this year. Last year, where I put them, kind of got overrun with weeds and I let it go. I hurt my SI joint, so I wasn't out in the garden as much as I should be. So I think I'm going to dedicate a little area for sweet peas this year just because, oh, they smell like heaven and they're so pretty. There's my dog snoring and a woodpecker at the same time. I don't know if you can hear that on, on my on my audio, but it's the first day we have all the windows open in the house and the bird song is just great. There's the woodpecker. There, we'll do 2 petals here, and then you go back in, drop in a little color, and like I said, the wilder the better. You don't want, like when you're doing a sunflower, very uniform. When you're doing, or pretty uniform. Um, I can't think of a wilder flower. Maybe an iris. Irises are very ruffly. But I don't know. Sweet peas are just such happy, floppy flowers. And maybe do a little bud here. I love the little buds that have the green leaves around them. They look so pretty. I don't know. I think could use another, put a bud over here. We're doing it on the other side. And I don't love the pink as much. I don't dislike it. Um, but the purple with the different colors in it is really, you just get so many colors in one tube. It's crazy. I'm not as crazy about all granulating colors. Some of the blues that granulate, if you're not expecting it, it can be quite frustrating to work with. But if you know how many colors are in it and what a tube does, it can be quite delightful. So, because I don't think, even if I did if I took a plain purple that wasn't granulating and dropped a pink and a blue in there, I don't know that I could get the colors to blend like that. I mean, they would be beautiful for sure, but they're just kind of all over in the flower and not, it's hard to get them in all areas of the flower like they are in a granulating paint than when you're dropping in 3 different colors to blend. It's just a different kind of blend. And we'll get some of these wigglies in here. They almost look like, is it jellyfish that you see pictures of with the little thingies hanging down? Um, the stems kind of look like that. They really wiggle about. I don't think I'm going to try to do another loop-de-loop like I did on the left side. Those are hard. And until my trigger thumb heals, I don't have as much control of, I'm having a little bit of difficulty painting with my left hand. Not terribly, but a little bit of control issues. And then sweet peas have those cute little 5 or 6 little green things coming down off the bottom. Sometimes they hug the flower, sometimes they're facing down. But it's a nice little accent. I try to wait for the sweet peas to kind of dry. Other flowers I like to have the stem bleed into them. Sweet peas not so much, because it doesn't really look like that in nature, and it doesn't, I don't know, I don't like for the green to bleed into these flowers. So but I really love the purple. I like the pink. I don't hate it. I think they look like sweet peas. I could have even probably gone a little wilder. And the pink is a little dark for me. So I think, see, here's the mixture of colors, but I think I'm going to pull out a little bit of color. It's not quite, I think it's dry enough. First I'll add a little bit of purple into these. Now these are more dry, they've been sitting, so you can add a curled leaf on some. When I was playing around with them, looked kind of good to go back in and do. Sometimes it's even a third petal that's kind of flopped over in the middle. And I like to add a little bit of detail to these, but not a lot. I don't want to mess up the natural, beautiful granulation that's going on. So go back in and maybe where that split is, can add a little dark color or roll over one side. They do, sweet peas do a lot of times have a rolled over leaf in the middle, or one of the leaves is flipped over. And so you can kind of have some fun adding in some rolled over portions of the sweet pea. I mean, it's really hard to mess up a sweet pea. I would love to see the paintings that you all do out there. I think you'll be delighted when you practice it. I mean, you do want to practice it because it can be frustrating. And also go onto Pinterest and pull up sweet pea botanicals, and you can see thousands of different pictures of sweet peas, real photos and illustrations that can help you kind of give you a guide to how you want to shape your sweet pea. And now this is so dark that I am wanting to pull out a little bit of that heavy pink paint. I didn't think it was, Daniel Smith paint is good. I do always use professional grade paints, and so part of that is you do a lot of times get really good staining and good color saturation. So taking out some of that paint, and I didn't really, if I re-wet it, it probably would have caused it to bloom. So I'm just using I wiped off my brush and my paper towel, and I'm just wiping it with it's a lightly damp brush. It's not a lot of water, and that does a really good job. And you just wipe it on your paper towel, and I'm not even cleaning it in between because it's just pulling it off and wiping it into the paper towel. But that gives it a little bit better dimension, I feel like. And if you want to go back in and add some more paint in certain spots, you can do that. But I kind of like the way it is, the wildness of just kind of leaving it when you're done. But let me know if you do these. I'd love to see your work, and thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day.